Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together for one of the only politicians in Dominica who have straddled several constituencies. First of all, he was voted in on a Dominica Labour Party ticket in the St. Joseph constituency. He left St. Joseph and then he went on to one of the strongest Labour Party constituencies in the Commonwealth of Dominica. One of the most formidable politicians in the Commonwealth of Dominica. He's smart, he's bright, he's compassionate, he respected the world over, brothers and sisters. Put your hands together for the Honorable Dr. Henderson!
Thank you, Comrade Ian. I'm sorry, I cannot do like Black Mike dance. But I'm happy to be here tonight. I am happy to be here tonight because we are seeing in Dominica leadership on display. Roosevelt Skerrit is a political genius. Brothers and sisters, but tonight I want your attention for a little while, because I want to talk to you about some things that are very serious. And Bode, I see enough Jaguar there. Boy, look what? Where's Sakis now? Hey, Sakis! Sakis! But tonight I need your attention, because when our Prime Minister stood before the nation on Sunday night to address us and to ask us once again to put our trust in him and put our trust in Labour, it was a very serious message that he was sending. He was telling us that as a small country, we don't have any major natural resources. We don't have oil. We don't have gold. We don't have precious metals or minerals. We are blessed with good soil and water, but these are not things that the world is prepared to pay us a lot of money for as they pay for oil. So we are struggling small island states. And sometimes some of us seem to forget that. So I want your attention. Don't get vexed with me. I might say some things you don't like, but sometimes we need a little reality check. Because when I consider how hard Roosevelt Skerrit has been working to develop Dominica, and sometimes I hear some of us complaining, we always find we should be getting more. But I have news for you. It is not easy. It is through God's grace and the genius of the leadership of Roosevelt Skerrit and the Labour Party that we've been able to survive. We were hit by Tropical Storm Erika. You remember that? We had to build an entire new community for the people of Petit Savan and the people of Dubic. Where do you think that money came from? And few years later, we got hit by Hurricane Maria. Think of Dominica 5 years ago. And sometimes things have been so good for us, we seem to forget how difficult things were after Hurricane Maria. So because Roosevelt Skerrit and the Labour Party have worked so hard to get Dominica to where it is today, sometimes we take things for granted. But I tell you, you remember when you used to go Sunday school or Sabbath school, and you used to sing the little song, count your blessings, name them one by one. That's right. Too often we forget to count our blessings. And like Teacher Bonnie likes to say, we must develop an attitude of gratitude. So I am saying this to say that the last 3 years, when we came to you and asked you to put your trust in the Dominica Labour Party, things were different. Things were different. Nobody could ever imagine that a virus could have stopped the entire world. A virus would stop the world from moving. I remember at the time I was not in Dominica, and I never thought I would see the busy streets of New York, of Washington, of Toronto with no vehicles for a while. I couldn't ever imagine that planes would ever stop flying when you get to airports. But 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, COVID-19 stopped the world. But sometimes some of us think that, oh, what COVID? I don't want no power up to come and tell me things tight because of COVID. Brothers and sisters, your government invested over $100 million to protect our lives, to fight COVID-19. So I ask you the question again, where did you think that money came from? We're not producing oil. We don't have gold and diamonds. So we have to work hard to ensure that we can provide. And I will say, during those times, let me ask you, did we ever send any public officer home? Did any public officer have problems receiving their salaries? What about the NEP? As a matter of fact, the NEP expanded over those years because we had to employ sanitization wardens. We had to employ people to clean our schools and to ensure that they were safe for children. We had to make heavy investments to protect lives. So I am coming to you tonight, and I want you to reflect on this. When our Prime Minister came to us and said, you know what, I am going to call the elections early, he asked us to trust him, to allow him to reset. That reset means that we need to start changing the way that we see government. Because every dollar that is spent in every constituency in Dominica comes from the treasury over there. So if you think Scary have a portion there for Mao, a portion there for Roseau, and a portion over there, no. It's coming from the same thing. So when I tell some of you from Granby that the money we invest in center to build the 84 houses, the fire station, the community facilities, that is the same place the money coming from. And therefore, we cannot do a lot of other things that we would like to do. You have to understand. You have to understand because, you know, as I tell people, Boy Scary is so generous. Anytime he don't give you what you ask for, things really tight. But we have to understand that the world has shifted. And again, we had COVID-19. Now we're seeing in Europe, Ukraine was invaded by Russia, and there is a dispute. And see what it has done to supply of goods and services. Petroleum prices went so high we could hardly pay our light bills. We didn't do that. We don't produce oil. And then it affected the shipment of grains because Ukraine is literally the breadbasket of the world. We don't think about those things sometimes. We're busy putting pressure. We have to show some more appreciation because this is the same Labour Party that took Dominica from the ravages of UWP in 2000 and bring us to where we are today. And when we drive throughout Dominica, all of us must be proud when we see what we have been able to achieve. But you know, I want you to remember that. But I must move on to something else I read on the paper or somewhere on the news. No, we must talk about that. Because people talking about snap elections like it's Roosevelt Scary that invented snap elections. I want to tell you two things about that. So in Canada, last year in 2021, Prime Minister Trudeau called a snap election. He was elected in 2019. 2 years later, he called the election. But I hear people talking about snap elections as if it's something that Skerrit invented. And then they say, and it's so short, but in the history of Dominica, it's only Eugenia Charles that used to give people more than the 30 days. When UWP called the election in January 1st, when the sun didn't rise, you remember that? They gave us till January 31st. I don't lie, I have to tell you, Morte Perry. I had just come into politics. I had just come little boy in that thing. And I hear it when I wake up, boy, Max and them start to have ban masenjo, nuchebeyo. Got some Morte Perry. And Rosie stood. Rosie didn't go and cry and say, no, we're not participating. Rosie stood up like a man and he took it. And he decided he is going to take us to victory. And he did. But today we have an opposition that is leaderless. Nobody asked all you to take out all your leader. The man leave all you stranded after 3 years, ever only fast, ever scary. I mean, a man left and today his party is blaming us because we call elections. But I want to say something else about that snap elections. Because in their press release today, and that's all they do, eh? They're not organized, they don't have party groups, they don't have meetings, they don't do canvassing, they don't go on the ground. Only thing they do is stay on the radio and talk. Stay on the radio, go on social media, make up all kinds of things about people. That is all they do. But what I found that was interesting in that press release today is the fact that they said that we have a 5-year mandate and we're cutting it short by 2 years. But yet I want you to listen. You remember after the last election, they say it was not free and fair? So now they say the election was free and fair, so we had a 5-year mandate. After they spent time, went to court, walk around Roseau every Wednesday, tried to burn down the place, now they're admitting because we cut them leaderless, helpless, and useless, they are now crying that we should not call a snap election. But brothers and sisters, we have work to do. Don't be carried away by threats of boycotts. We still have our work to do. Because we want to run this campaign professionally as we've always done. But we also want to get the message to you. And tonight, if you remember just one thing, is to remember that things are difficult the world over. And when I tell you that, I'm not like them fellas. I represented Dominica for 10 years at the United Nations and in Washington. I understand the world. I understand how the world works. I understand how countries work. I know what makes countries develop and what don't make them develop. And one of the most important things is leadership that makes the difference. So you have a good thing in labor. You have a good thing in labor, you have to keep it. And I know that some of us may have some concerns about events, those which will be included here tonight. But trust our leader as we have in the past. We have won elections 5 times in Dominica. And we are going to win it again a 6th time by the grace of God. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We ready, ready.